Black, Latino, or even Caucasian young man on the street that has the courage to not act like a slave must in fact be treated as a criminalized enemy. In that context, to find that young people in the city and county of San Francisco schools have taken great pride in the life of Oscar and great pride in the fight for justice against his murderer, that I understand that they have now named a building at San Francisco State University. Is it the business building? They've named a building in honor of Oscar Grant III. Let's give those people bring on our special guest. I'd like to know if Brother Cephas, if you want to share anything from the family or your thoughts on where we're going from here. So please receive the uncle of Oscar Grant, Brother Bobby Cephas.
As always, very thankful to Minister Muhammad for, just sharing information, of course, and hearing about the different issues that we got to deal with as a community and going forward, and even ideas on how to join these things together to make this movement that's occurring more powerful. On behalf of the family, again, it's always thank you for your support and your love and just being there, because that's really important. As we know, March 26th, we returned to LA to hear the questionnaire that's being put together for the jury. Because the jury process or selection is to begin June the 7th. And so, as for talking to District Attorney Stein, I asked, how long would this process take? And, it's a kind of a possibility of a week and a half to 2 weeks. So it's a possibility that the trial itself can actually start, let's say around the 20th or somewhere at the latter part of the month of June. But anyway, as far as the 26th is concerned, if any of you are interested in going, that hearing is going to be held at 1:30 on Friday. It won't be the early morning hearing as we've been going to. It'll be at 1:30. Of course, there's going to be some concerns about how they're going to put this questionnaire together, because as we experienced in the process of this litigational issue that's been going on since the beginning, one of the reasons why the case itself was moved was because of how the questionnaire went out about how the community positioned themselves when it came to could you make a fair decision based on the evidence presented. And of course, to us, there was much bias a way that the questionnaire was put out, and then never really no details given to us on how the questions was even asked in the order that they was asked. So it's going to be real interesting for us to see these questionnaires as they come out and how they're going to be presented. Of course, it's just our hope that Stein does what he has to do as a DA to get the best jury possible. So, of course, we've been told that the community of LA may not really have the information concerning this case, and therefore will come totally blind and just be dependent on the evidence presented, which could be or could not be. It's just our hope that they're clear, or whoever's selected come with unbiased issues, and be able to base this case on the evidence presented. And these so-called stealth jurors don't sneak in and, do their thing, So anyhow, I don't have much, myself, I just got back from North Carolina. My job had sent me there, and it was an experience in itself, and I had a chance to talk to a few people and ask them about the case. Many have seen the video, but have no knowledge really of the case in itself, but was appalled at the fact of what the video showed. So, there's people that are knowledgeable, not knowledgeable, but have seen and know about the shooting itself, and just on that basis is like, man, that didn't make no sense. But all the other details, of course, they are totally without, So it's just my hope, of course, that this case is done and completed in the way that we have all been praying for, so that the nation in itself as a whole can see, especially based on what's been happening here in Oakland in itself, that, hey, if we do as a community come together, we stand much more of a chance to see some change occur. Because what I've discovered in all this is that which I can't do alone, I can do, or we can do together.
Yes.
It's much more power in unity. We have experienced the divide and conquer issue. I think we've overcome that, and it looked like we're moving ahead. LA has been supportive and behind us. A lot's going on back there. So those are pretty much the details that I can give now. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you. As Brother Cephas mentioned Los Angeles, you should be aware that there are two coalitions that are organizing for the activist movements in Los Angeles. One is many of those who participate in the town hall with us here, the Northern California Coalition for Justice for Oscar Grant, and there's now a Los Angeles Coalition for Justice for Oscar Grant. So the very scene that Attorney Raines decreed that he was concerned about coming into the courtroom in Alameda County, he sees probably very similar scene. In all the small hearings we've been to, there have been 100 or so activists on the sidewalk welcoming Mr. Mesley to Southern California. So we're thankful for the Los Angeles Coalition. And of course, we should expect a lot more attention and participation as the actual trial gets underway. It's been issue enough that the Los Angeles media has seen fit to be present, to cover, to interview activists in front of those courtrooms in the two prior hearings, which only suggest that when the trial launches in earnest, there'll be a lot more attention, perhaps from media, but most importantly, from the activists and those who are concerned, who join us in the demand for justice. This case is really a landmark case. It is the first case in the state of California's history where a law enforcement officer has been held for a murder charge committed while on duty. This is unheard of in the state, and this is why we owe it to the family of Oscar Grant. We owe it to ourselves and to the community and to the entire country not to turn our backs on such a critical case. That's like walking away from Brown versus Board. That's like walking away from the Rosa Parks Montgomery bus boycott. This is an issue that will determine whether or not we are in a system that will work for the voiceless poor. And so this is why we are honored to play our part in participating in the demands for justice. When I heard, when the students were rallying, and I was told while we were talking to about 1,000 at Oakland City Hall that there was another 1,000 coming up the street out of Berkeley, making their way toward the Oakland City Hall, then I knew right away those movements we made called Caravan for Justice were absolutely critical. And it's gotten to the point, as we are looking at how quickly cities and counties and the state itself is scapegoating the voiceless poor for their financial troubles, so that as we are suffering, we are finding our homes being foreclosed. We are seeing our credit being crashed. It looks like government's response is not to save the homes of the poor. Government's response is to save the bankers who made the poor poor in the first place.
Yes,
and so we want to be very clear that as the state continues its economic demise, I think I heard Wilson say that the war on drugs was launched at a time in which the use of drugs and the criminal acts from drugs were on the decline.
That's right.
Well, now that prompts a question. Was or is the war on drugs actually a war against drug use, drug abuse, and drug dealing? Or is the war on drugs something else altogether?
Something else altogether.
That's a question. And when we make our next journey to Sacramento, and right around now is right around the time that we need to give strong consideration to what kind of voice we expect our elected officials to speak.